certain few rules about the webinar. So let's get started with the agenda. So today we will talk about the mobile platform. What are the mobile platforms, available platforms? Then we'll see what are the native applications. We'll talk about the native applications in Iron Speed Designer. Then we'll see how to generate Android application using the Iron Speed Designer. Then we'll see how to generate the iOS application using Iron Speed Designer. And then finally, we'll see how to use the geolocation inside native applications. So everyone knows that Google and Apple has dominated today's mobile market, and there is a greater diversity of devices already in the market. So it is important to support the mobile web browsers, or today it has become really important to support the native applications. So everyone knows that Designer version 10.0 already supports the browser pages. What it means that if you open up an application in the mobile browser, then you will get the finely displayed with the great with the best UI on your mobile in your mobile browser. From 11.0, now Iron Speed Designer also supports the native mobile applications, and then we'll talk shortly about the native applications. So what are the native applications? In short, the native applications is written in the native language that is supported by the particular operating system or a particular device. As an example, in case of Android, it's going to be Java, or in case of iOS, it's going to be Objective-C or Swift in these days. So these applications, native applications, can be installed through an app store, like the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store or the Amazon's App Store, something like that. And they're specifically developed for one platform. So if at all you want to create a mobile application, then the new application needs to be generated supporting a different platform. So meaning, if at all I want to support my application in Android, I also want to support in iOS, and I want to support in the Amazon App Store, and I need to develop 3 different applications, or the Windows Store as well. I need to create 3 different applications in order to support available platforms. So that kinds of a tedious and time-consuming task. So Iron Speed Designer come up with supporting the native applications out of the box. So the goals of native applications inside the Iron Speed Designer are what the definition of native applications is. These applications should be accessed through the icons on the device home screen. Meaning, literally clicking on the icon, you should be able to open an application, and people should be able to communicate with the application. This application should be really easy to distribute to the application, to the App Store, basically. So once the application is generated, it should reduce the amount of testing time, the maintenance time, and then it should be very easy to literally deploy an application to the App Store. Iron Speed Designer also wants to support the data-centric applications. Why? Because the main product Iron Speed Designer does, it generates the web applications and the websites provided the database schema. So everything is done out of the box if the database is provided, and it can generate the correct type of the web application which supports the correct type functionality, which is out of the box. Meaning, once you use the Iron Speed Designer wizard, you have the database ready. You go through the process of the wizard, and then you can generate these type of pages which are literally ready to deploy. Inside the native application, the goal of Designer was to support these data-centric applications so that it becomes easier from the maintenance perspective as well. In this case, the data is located on the remote database, meaning all the native applications that are supported by the Iron Speed Designer, all of them have the data located on the remote server. It's not going to be a part of your application, but it's going to be somewhere remote, which again I'm going to explain in short, in detail. These applications are hosted on the server and allows easy updates. What it means that once the web application is generated, it can be saved on the, it is basically deployed on the server. So once the native application is generated and deployed to the app stores, all one needs to do is keep updating the web application if at all required, which is completely different from the generated Android and iOS application. You will get to know in detail what am I talking about in the next few slides. And we also want to support the geolocation functionality inside the Iron Speed design. Now, how these goals are achieved by the designer? First of all, it's important to generate the pre-configured URL, meaning the starting point to generate Android or iOS application is to open up the Iron Speed Designer and generate regular web application, but you just have to include the mobile pages in it. So what I'm going to do is open up the Iron Speed Designer, generate the mobile pages, and generate the regular web application for it. Once this application is generated, this application is deployed to the server like any other web application is deployed in iOS or any other, whatever the type of server that you want to support. Once this application is deployed, now you go to your regular browser, the computer browser, you open and then you try to type in the URL, and you should be able to redirect to whatever the application has been deployed to the server. Now, once we get this URL, you come back to the Iron Speed Designer and go to the deployment wizard and try to generate the Android application using this particular URL. So what it is trying to achieve is it's literally putting up a wrapper around your web application, and then supporting your web application as a native application, which can be used by the people only if they are connected to the internet. Of course, because if they are not connected to the internet, then there is no accessibility to the database, since they will need the data connect to the server in order to get the data, so that all the correct types of operations will be supported by the designer. Another goal was to support the geolocation functionality, so it should be possible to access the user's location inside the Android application, so that the local things can be supported. So whatever the web application that you can write, there could be a need that you might need the user's location in order to support the further functionality. So that is also supported as a part of the generated Android or iOS application. And then it's another thing that you must know that it cannot work offline, as I already mentioned, meaning one needs to get connected to the internet in order to work Android or the iOS application generated by the Iron Speed Designer. Since database is not on the mobile device, but it's somewhere remote on your remote database server. So if anyone is aware of the generated Iron Speed Designer applications, the regular web applications, then it has the ASPX pages, it has the controls code behind files, and so on and so forth. There are a bunch of things in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to compare the regular web application with the mobile application, so that you'll know what changes or what are the similarities between the web application and the mobile applications. So like it does for the web application, it's the similar thing for the mobile pages. It builds the ASPX pages for the smartphone browsers. The mobiles and the full-size web pages can coexist in the same application. Meaning, so once the application is generated, whatever the application is generated, all I need to do is go to the application wizard and keep on adding the mobile pages or the web pages, whatever is required. And everything is part of just the same application. Meaning, let's say I create an application using the web pages, and which also contains the mobile pages. I take this application and deploy it to the app server. I come to the desktop browser, open up the application, and I can see the desktop page, which is like formatted for the desktop like applications. Again, I go back to my mobile device. I open up my native applications, and now I can see the mobile page instead of the desktop page. So the good thing is we can have the web pages the mobile and the full site web pages as a part of just the same applications. This has the biggest advantage that all the structure is exactly the same. So it's very easy to, from the maintainer perspective. The functionality inside the mobile page is similar to what's there inside the web pages. Then IronSpeed Designer supports different types of page style. What it means is every web application or a web page for that matter is going to have some type of page style on which the page, different types of table controls, the record controls, or whatever data gets displayed. Now there are different types of page styles that are supported by the designer, like which are categorized as the modern grid, and the classic. These are just the names of the page style. These are the category names of the page styles. Once we go to the demo, I will show you the different page styles that are supported by the designer. And then, so all these page styles are also supported for the mobile pages. So there are a variety of page styles that are already supported by the designer. Then the data access layer and the business layer that are supported are exactly same like the regular web application. So the data access layer is again different from the business layer and the application layer. Same set of databases are supported as well. So different supported databases are Microsoft Access, SQL Server, Oracle, MySQL, and SQL CE as well. So the same databases are supported for the mobile pages. The generated code model for the mobile pages is just the same as the regular web pages. IronSpeed Designer in the controls code behind file or the page behind file supports the structure where there are two sections called as section 2 and section 1. Section 2 code is everything is generated by the IronSpeed Designer out of the box. So anytime you come back to the section 2, you are not supposed to modify section 2. However, you will see that all the methods inside section 2 are overridable in section 1. Meaning you can override each and every method in section 1 if at all you want to make any customization. So tomorrow, let's say you need something different from the application, or you want to customize it specific to that application. When you go to the section 1, just copy paste the method from section 2 to section 1. Make it overridable, meaning override the method in section 1 and then write the code that you want. So that whenever you run the application, the compiler will completely ignore the section 2 method and will use your section 1 method. So that's the code model that has been supported by the web pages for a very long time, and the same code model is used by the mobile pages so that you can again add whatever your customizations in section 1 if at all you want to. Now the base classes, again, the base classes is a DLL created by the designer itself. It contains certain types of functionalities, additional functionalities that are already used by your generated application. Like 90% of the time, you absolutely don't need to modify the base classes. But if you have a special requirement where you need to modify the base classes DLL, in which it is also supported as a part of your applications, you can open the base classes project, modify it, and then just compile it. Again, this base classes project is just same for your mobile pages as well as for the web pages. So if at all I want to make any changes to my web pages as well as the mobile pages in the business layer, all I'm going to do is modify the base classes, compile it, and then both my the web application pages and the mobile pages will use this code, and then I don't need to worry about two different types of pages that have been supported by the application. Again, as I already mentioned, the customization model is exactly the same. The generated code is also the same as the web pages, for the web pages as well as for the mobile pages. Now, before looking at the Android application, let's go and take a look at the demo of how to generate a regular application inside the IronSpeed Designer. So once you open up the designer, this is the screen that you're going to see. In order to generate a new application, I'm going to click on the Build an Application Now button in here, which opens up the Application Wizard. Application Wizard provides the basic steps for generating an application. Going next, we'll pick the type of pages that we want to generate. As I mentioned already mentioned, we want to generate the web pages so that we can support the desktop applications, and then we will also generate the mobile pages so that we can support the mobile application. Right now, let's not worry about the RESTful and SharePoint, which are advanced types of applications, which you can also have, but then this will be covered in our advanced webinars. So going to the next step, we select the page style for an application. So as you can see, that I keep on changing the page style on the left hand side. You see the type page styles that are getting modified on the right hand side. So you can pick the page style that you want from the left hand side. So the three different categories I already mentioned are modern Greek, and the classic. And there is also a custom style, but then if you are an advanced user, then you can go with the custom page style, or if you're a beginner, then just pick the existing page style so that it will be easier for you to understand how the application is generated. So let's pick as an example the Amaron page style. We'll pick the type of database. Let's pick the SQL Server CE database for the demo purpose. And then I have selected one of our sample database called a Southwind database. Going to the next step, it is asking me to the full trust setting, which needs to be set inside the web.config. I'm going to say yes. So this type of setting is required when we select the database type as SQL CE. There is some property that needs to be set inside the web.config. So it's just gave me a warning and I just said yes. If you say no, then it won't be able to show you or read the database, the SQL CE database, which requires the full trust permission from your application. In the pages step, we're going to pick the tables that we want, the pages that we want to generate for these particular tables. So on the left hand side, once I select the categories table, by default it has selected certain type of pages for me. But as you can see, there are data entry forms, which are nothing but the add and edit record pages. There are reports, which contains the show type pages, search pages, enhanced or detailed pages, etc. And there are mobile pages too. There are few types of mobile types of pages. Only required types of mobile pages are supported. So for the time being, let's pick all types of mobile pages. And then there are 6 types of web pages supported too. So let's pick few more tables from the left hand side. Orders, which has same number of pages I have selected. I'm going to pick the products. Maybe that's enough for the table. Going to the next, you can select the virtual primary key and the virtual foreign key. So virtual primary key and virtual foreign key, these are the concepts. These are the concepts of Ironspit Designer. As an example, if you do not have, or if you cannot for some reason specify the primary key or the foreign key inside your database, or for example for the views, there are no primary keys or foreign keys in the database. However, you want to generate the pages for your view. What you can do is you can come back here. You will add the virtual primary key, which is treated as same as your primary key by the designer. Similarly, you can add the virtual foreign key in here so that you can have the relationship between two or three views, which becomes easier to generate an application or to generate the different types of pages inside the design. So it's an additional functionality provided by the designer if you do not have permissions, or for some reason if you cannot create the concepts like primary key or foreign key inside your database. So you can always come back to the designer and then create the virtual primary keys and the foreign keys. This is localization. So you can pick whatever types of languages that you want from the left hand side. You just have to click this button so that the corresponding language will get selected. For the simplicity, let's just get started with selecting one language. The default selected language is of course English, United States. And in the configure step, we specify the type of application that we want to generate. So it can be either the web application or the website, whatever you want to pick. Then the Visual Studio solution file that you want to generate, it could be Visual Studio 2008, it could also be Visual Studio 2010, and then 2012 or 13. Now 12 and 13, depending on if I select a different .NET framework, then the other things will be enabled. So whatever is this standard that is supported by the Microsoft, you can pick the .NET framework and the corresponding solution files. What are the supported solution files you will see from the right hand side. You can pick anything that you want. So maybe we can generate the 4.5 application which uses the solution file 2013 as an example. It's also possible to select the code language. Two supported code languages are C# and VB.NET. So for simplicity, we can pick C# language, and the SQL statement generation, it can also be inline or the stored procedures. For the simplicity, let's go with the inline. And then this is the finish step, which is just for the displaying purpose, and then I just have to click the finish button in here in order to generate an application. So now I have clicked the finish button. The designer has started generating the pages. As it progresses, we will see what type of pages or project files, code files that it is generating. So it has started generating the project files, and it will soon start generating the ASPX and the C# file, code files for us. So as you can see, it has already started generating the C# files as well. Now it will generate the ASPX files. So once all these files get generated, we can run this application in the browser and see how it looks like. Okay, it's now compiling the project. Since we have generated the web application, it's going to compile ahead of time. Application has been compiled, and then we can run. By default, it tries to run an application in the browser. So whatever the default page that has been selected by the application will be displayed first. Most likely, it's going to be with show categories table. So this is the generated application. As you can see, literally in 5 minutes time, we have used the existing database, and we were able to generate the pages that are really good looking, and then which are functional, which supports the current type of functionality. As you can see, this is the show table page of the categories table, which is already displaying all the information that is required, which is very nicely formatted. Nothing needs to be done in here. If at all we want to add any category, I go to the actions, click on the plus button, and then it shows me the add form. I can add maybe some category called as drinks, and then a test description in here, and then I just can click the save button, and it has already added my new category somewhere in here. So all we need to do is use the IronSpeed Designer application wizard to generate the applications. Similarly, it has also generated the mobile pages. You can see that on the left hand side. I can quickly show you on one of the mobile pages. You can see the mobile pages in here as well. Go to the live preview, and then we'll take a look at the mobile page, one of the mobile pages. So this is how your page is going to look like in a mobile browser. So this is showing me the page inside a mobile browser. But what we are interested today is in generating the native application for the Android and the iOS. So let's get back to our. So let's talk about generating an Android application. Now that we have generated the web application and have deployed the generated web application to the web server, and we also have the the URL ready, which needs to be used while you're generating the Android and the iOS application. Now, before we generate the Android application, there are certain prerequisites that needs to be installed. It's not that difficult. It's very straightforward process, but there are certain things that needs to be done even before generating the Android application. So you need to install the Java Development Kit, Android SDK, and AND for Apache for now. So this all the instructions regarding how to install these software are given in this particular helpline. So don't worry, these slides will be shared with you so that you'll have the URL, and then you will know from where to download all these applications. So once you install all these applications, there are certain settings that you need to make in order so that you can generate the Android application. So it requires setting up the environment variables properly. So I'm going to demo you quickly how to set up the environment variables. So what you need to do is go to the advanced system setting. I'm using the Windows 7 operating system, so I'll show you how to do it in Windows 7. But if you're using any other Windows operating system, it's going to be similar thing. You go to the control panel, advanced system settings, and in the system properties, you go to the advanced tab and then click on the environment variables in here. Once you click on the environment variables, then you will see the different types of variables down here called as system variables. Now look for the system variables and not for the user variables. You're interested in the system variables. So what we're going to do is we're going to add 3 environment variables called as Java_home. Just edit it and then put whatever the value where you have saved your JDK or downloaded your JDK in here. Pay close attention that I haven't included the bin directory in here. So you're just going to specify where your JDK is installed, the directory where the JDK is installed. Similarly, we're going to add the ant_n, a home environment variable, where you're going to specify where your ant is installed. And then finally, we come back to the fan and then specify how I can show you in a notepad, like how to specify the path environment variable. So all I'm interested in, whatever the values that I have added for the JDK from here. Okay, so you need to add the value %java_home %/bin. Similarly, you're going to add a value for the ant_home, and there are certain values that need to be set for the Android SDK. Setting up all this information, you have all this information available along with the screenshot and step-by-step process for each and every Windows operating system in our online help. So it's okay even if you don't understand right now, but the important thing is you need to set up the environment variable, and then I just wanted to show you the process of how it can be done. But what values needs to be added in there, you will get all the information in our online documentation. So once you set up all these environment variables, it's important to restart your computer. So if you do not restart your computer, some of the environment variables may not take effect. So do not forget to restart your machine. Another important thing is you cannot add spaces whenever you specify the values for the environment variable. If you specify a space, then the value will not be considered and the environment variable will not work, and you will have trouble generating the Android application. Now we also need to match the Android SDK API version in the configure step of the deployment wizard and the Android SDK manager. Now what I mean is, now I'm going to demo what am I talking about so that you will understand where this Android SDK version comes from. So I go where my Android SDK version, Android SDK is installed. Okay, so this is my SDK manager, and then I'm just gonna click on whatever is installed so that it shows me what all platform, tools, Android related, everything has been installed on my machine. So as you can see, whatever the API and the revision that has been installed by my machine. So this API number 22 or 21, whatever is there, you need to match it with whenever we are going to specify the property in the deployment wizard in the Iron Sprint designer. So we recommend using the Android API 21 because it supports certain functionalities like file upload control. In the previous APIs, if at all you try to use, this functionality does not work because there was a bug in the Android, and then we cannot do anything in order to fix that problem. So our recommendation is to use the API 21 and then install the corresponding thing for the API 21. So make sure you install the API 21, and we need to match this particular number when we use the Iron Sprint design deployment wizard to generate an application. So this is how the deployment wizard looks like. You pick the type of application, like the Android application. Going to the next step, you can configure certain number of properties in here. So in this step, I specify the application URL. So this is nothing but the starting point to your mobile application. So maybe I just want to go to the menu of my page, meaning the menu of the mobile application where whenever the application is started or opened up by someone. If you click on the configure other application setting, it opens up the property sheet where you can specify the different properties. And it's important to specify all of these properties. Otherwise, application won't be ready to deploy it to the App Store, or even you won't be able to generate an Android application using the design. So let's take a look at these properties one by one in detail. So application name is nothing but the name you want, the name that you want to give to your application. Choose this name very carefully because people are going to see this name when you deploy your application to the App Store. So you need to pick the appropriate name according, and whatever the name that you choose, it will be used in the App Store. The header background color, it's nothing but the background color that will be used in your native mobile application. So whatever the header background color that you want to choose, on which you will basically see your logo. So pick the background color according to what your logo is going to be. Your logo should look better on the background color that you choose. So if there is no internet connectivity, then some message needs to be displayed to the users. So you can pick whatever the message that you want in whatever language you want. Then you can choose a property which is yes or no value, says requires user locations. Does your application need user's location in order to proceed? Then select this property as true, otherwise set it as false. Remember that this property is important. If you say user requires user location as no, meaning you will never be able to get the user's location. But it's okay to get the user's location and not to use it if you don't need to. So make sure that in future, if at all you need the user's location, make sure you pick this property as true so that you don't need to regenerate the application twice and submit it to the App Store 2 times. The version number is whatever the version number that you want to give to your application. Version code is again nothing but just the integer value. It's just for your purpose. But version name will be displayed to everyone who tries to download your application. So let's say I deploy my application to the App Store today as the version 1.0. Tomorrow I deploy the version 2.0. Then people will see, oh, tomorrow then version 2.0 has been distributed or is available in the App Store and then can be downloaded. So pick the version name so that which people will understand, which is standard process is 1.0. If there are minor changes, you just go with the minor addition like 1.1, 1.2, so on and so forth. When it's a bigger change, you can say it like 2.0, something like that. Version code is nothing but an integer number for your reference. It will never be visible to the users, but it is the property that will be required in order to generate the application. So specify the version code number that you want. The Android SDK API that you see in this screenshot is 19, but as I show you, I had installed the 21, and then we recommend using the SDK API 21, not 19. Then there are a section called as Android application icons. and then you see the different types of sizes that are being mentioned for the application icons. So what we suggest is specify all the icons so that different types of screen sizes that are being supported by the Android, and then people can see the appropriate type of application icon according to the whatever device that they have. So you just have to create application icons with the sizes that are being mentioned, and then specify these values in here. What are these values are? These are nothing but the path from your generated the web application where these images are saved. So you just generate these type of images or the application icons and put it in an application folders, images folder, and then choose that file. Of course, you can create an altogether different folder inside your application and then specify all these parts in here as well. Then there is something called as application logo. Does this work? Okay, so I will continue. If you still can't see the screen, then just let me know, and then I try to increase the screen resolution. Similarly, you are going to pick the Android logo. The Android logo is exactly similar to whatever you have picked. The application icon. It's just a logo which will be displayed on the left-hand side corner when someone opens up an application. Again, there are different types of sizes that are provided in order to support the different screen sizes. And then there is something called as Android application key generation properties. Now, what is this? This is an altogether new concept if you are not aware of the key properties at all. So as each and every application generated, the Android application generated needs to be signed by the person, digitally signed, before submitting it to the App Store. So how are you going to sign this application? In order to sign the application, you need the public-private keys so that this application can be signed, and then the generated application can be uploaded to the App Store. So in order to do that, you need to provide certain properties in here. So you can provide these properties. The password, you understand. The key alias is nothing but the alias that you want to give to your key, which is important to remember these properties. Then the common name, whatever is the name that you want, your name, organization unit, organization name, city name, state name, and country. These are all self-explanatory properties. But the important thing is, let's say today you are going to deploy your application to the App Store. Then tomorrow, if at all you want to submit your application, the second version of the same application, it is very, very, very important to use exact same values for these properties. Because once you sign your application with certain properties, then the next time you submit the same application or the version of the same application, it's important to sign the application with the same key structure, like this has been mentioned in here. So if you miss this, then if you use an altogether different key or something different in your key, then that will be considered as a different application from the one that you have previously submitted. So in order to submit the versions of the same applications, you need to use the same properties over and over again. So these properties are very important. And then, of course, you're not supposed to share it with anyone, because if anyone has these properties, then can generate an APK, just sign it with these particular credentials, and then submit it to the App Store on your behalf. So these properties, you should not share it with anyone. So once the application is, so these are all the properties that you need to select, and then you're going to click on the next button and then just the finish button, which will generate an application. Once you generate the Android application, this is how the folder structure will look like in the Windows Explorer. You will have the Google Play Store services, which is nothing but a supporting project. Then you will have the key store and the application that has been generated. And then there is something called as .apk file. This is the most important file for which it says main activity -released.apk. So this is the file that you're going to submit it to the App Store. Literally, if you are not going to customize anything, just take this APK and put it in the App Store. In order to distribute your application, you take this APK and then follow the instructions in this particular URL in order to deploy it to the App Store. Deploying an application to the Android app stores is extremely simple process that I have found. So you actually go to the URL, you specify, you create your account, and then as far as I remember, you also need to pay $25 once in order to submit your applications. But you can submit as many applications as you want once you pay that fee. Then there are certain properties that you need to set, like what category your application comes under. There are very few properties that you need to pick, and then they will give you a chance where you can upload your APK. There are 3 versions, meaning there's something called as alpha version, beta version, and actual release. So what you can do is you can put your application under the alpha and beta, and you can ask your customers or your colleagues to test your application. So you can give these credentials or provide these links whenever you generate the alpha and beta, upload the APKs, and then ask them to test it on their real-time devices. Once it's been done, you can just roll it out to the actual to the production by selecting another option where you will see that alpha, beta, or the production version. So it's very easy and helpful if you go there. So once the application is deployed and you try to open it on your device, this is what you're going to see. So this is the application that I'm going to see. This is how it's going to look like as a native application. I'm not talking about the Android, the mobile browser, but the native application. So I'm clicking on the icon, and this is what it opens up for me. On the left-hand side, you see that this is the application logo. The background color that we have selected, it was the blue one. So this is the background color I was talking about, which we had mentioned in the property sheet. This is the back button that has been provided by the designer. The reason for providing the back button is some of the Android devices do not have on their own back button. If not, then people won't be able to come back to the previous screen that has been selected. So just click on the back button, and then you will be redirected to the previous page that you have created. And then this is nothing but when you click on the categories page, it gets just redirected to the generated show categories table page, where you will see the categories displayed. This is the self-representative page, so might have clicked on the self-representative, and then this is nothing but the order in which the self-representatives are displayed. So let's get back to the designer and quickly look at actually how to generate the Android application. So if you go under tools, so imagine that we have already generated the web application like I already demoed, and this application is also deployed to your web server, and then we have the URL ready with us. I go to the deployment wizard under tools, which allows me to pick the type of application to generate, where I'll say Android application. Going to the next step, I'll pick the URL. Let's say my URL is ironspit.com. Or you can also have the URL to your menu page as an example. If I go to the configure other application page, these are the properties. So there are certain default properties you will already get, but you can change them if you want.
Is there anything that you can do? There's only one person. So
unfortunately, no. I can increase the size. Is that fine?
Yeah, I don't think it's the size. I think it's the clarity. I think it's just one person.
Okay. So someone is unable to see the images, but don't worry. We'll share the you will get all the screens, and we will share the presentation with you so that you will get to know what I am talking about. You can just concentrate on what I'm talking about right now. So I'll just put these properties quickly in here. So that we can proceed further. So once I specify all these properties, I need to click on the save button. Okay, so it gave me a warning saying that I have installed the APK 21. So I said yes, fine, and then it does support the file upload functionality for me. Going to the next step, all I need to do is click on the finish button. So it will first try to build the application, the underneath application, and then it's now generating the Android application for us. So now the Android application will get generated. We need to wait until it goes to the last step of an application. Okay, so it has successfully generated the Android application. You can always go to the deployment folder and take a look at what type of application has been generated in there. You will see the path where your application, the deployment folder, has been generated. Now the next thing is to generate the iOS application. Okay, in order to generate the iOS application, again you're going to go to the deployment wizard, assuming that you already have the URL that we have already for the generated application, the web application that we have generated and deployed to the web server. So pick the app option in the deployment wizard as Apple iOS app. Going to the next step, in the iOS app generation, similar to the Android, you're going to select certain properties. Let's take a look at these properties. The application name is the name everyone is going to see for your applications. The internet connectivity message is nothing but if there is no internet connectivity, then what message you want to show. Specify your message in here. Specify if it requires the user's location. Specify yes or no according to what is your need. Then the version number of your applications that others will see. Then there are application icon sizes. Pay very close attention to the sizes that I have mentioned for the Apple. They do reject the application if the proper sizes are not selected or certain number of files are not provided. So it's important to provide all the icon sizes and all types of images in here. So the application icon, whatever the application icon that you want to choose, select the size that has been mentioned and then provide the paths to those icons in here. Then there are spotlight images. So what are the spotlight icons? In Apple iOS, if you go to the App Store and try to search for a certain application, once you search that application, the spotlight image, the image that is being shown is called as the spotlight image. So again, the different types of icons are required in order to support the different device sizes. So support the spotlight icons, and then also support the application different sizes of application logos in here. Once you select that, just go to the next step, specify the application URL, and then click on the finish button. So clicking on the finish button will generate the iOS application. However, it's not going to be just same as the Android, meaning Apple iOS application is not ready to deploy to the App Store because you need to have an Apple computer where you need to install the software called as Xcode. This is a requirement which Apple puts in. You need to compile your application using the Xcode. Then you just copy the generated iOS application to your Apple computer and open it using the Xcode. So what you're going to open is in the folder you will see the file named as .xcode project. Whatever your name of application is, and the name of the file is the .xcode project. If you open it up, you will see the generated applications, and that's all Android Sprint Designer can do it for you. Now your task is to build and run this application using the Xcode. Unfortunately, we cannot help you from here, but those procedures are very easy. If there is a simple button called as build and then a simple button called as run. If you click on it, you'll be able to build and run your application on the Apple computer itself. So you just need to follow the instructions in this particular URL in order to run the applications on the actual iOS device. Again, it's not a rocket science. If you literally follow the steps one by one, it's kind of pretty simple. to run your application. Again, in this case, you need to open up the Apple account, and then it will provide you certain instructions in order to how to run your application on the iOS. And again, for the distribution purpose, you need to use this particular URL, which shows how to distribute your iOS application to the Apple App Store. Okay. In case of iOS application, pay very close attention to the sizes of the images. Do pick the sizes that are being provided by the designer. So we do specify all the image sizes that are required so that your application will get accepted to the App Store. And then be professional here and make your UI better so that your application can get accepted in the Apple App Store. Remember that if you do not have a good UI, or if you have something similarly a regular web page can have, then your application may not get selected. But if you have like a mobile type of version for your application, then there are chances that your application will get supported. So we have generated the application, the Android and the iOS, using the designer itself. The application is called as Buckaroo, which is already available in the Android and the Apple stores. You can download them. This application is 100% generated by the designer using the exact same procedure, and then they are submitted to the App Store. So it's possible to generate an application using the designer and just submit it to the App Store so that they will get accepted. So this is how the iOS application looks like when you open it in the as a native application in your iOS device. The background color that I mentioned, left hand side, is the application logo. This is the back button, the same thing that we mentioned. The middle part is your web page, mobile web page, which you have generated using the designer. And this is nothing but a special categories page, which is just displaying the categories in the table format. Going back to the designer, let's just go into the deployment wizard, picking up the step called like Apple iOS app, specifying before specifying the URL, maybe I can go to this properties. All the properties, default properties are being set. I don't want to change anything, so I'm just going to specify the application URL in here. You can specify the URL to your home page or menu page if you want, and then click on the finish button, which will quickly build your application and of course will generate your iOS application. Once this application is generated, all you need to do is copy the entire folder to your Apple iOS, to your Apple computer, and install the Xcode IDE in there, and then open up the file called that ends with the extension Xcode proj. Once you open that file, you will see that the entire application is in there. You just need to click on the run button, and then you should be able to run your application on a simulator on your Apple computer. And then there's one more slide that I'm going to talk about, and then I'll start answering the questions. So geolocation is an important part. So there are quick properties that you really need to set in order in your application. What you're going to do is, there is a property called as retrieve user location inside the configure application wizard. So let's go and take a look at this property, which you need to set in order to use the geolocation. So whenever I was talking about generating the web application, by doing that, before deploying this application to the server, we're going to go to the tools, we're going to go to the configure application menu, and then there is something called a geolocation. You need to set this property yes, and save it and build the application, and then deploy it to your to the web server, and then get the URL. The reason to set this property is, once this property is set, the designer generates the code to retrieve the user location properties. So basically, these are the functionalities that are provided by the designer so that you can retrieve the user location. And then there are standard functions or the formulas that we call it in the designer. The location to longitude, and then simple formula called get browser location gives you the entire location, like the full address. But you can also get the latitude and longitude parts by just applying the formula called as location to latitude to the get Bowser location to get the individual latitude and the latitude and the longitude if you want. And let's get to the questions. So I'll read the questions first and then try to answer the questions one by one. I think the notes text file with the SDK info is very important. Can we get a copy of the file along with the PowerPoint pages? Notes text file. There was no text file. Everything that I showed you was a part of the presentation itself. But if you have any special need, then just open up the support case and I will provide you whatever I have or any file that you want for this purpose. So if at all you don't find anything in here, you will get the entire presentation first of all, and all the instructions, literally including the screenshot, how to set the properties, even the screenshot of the SDK manager, where to look for the SDK version number and everything, you will get in our online help. You will get this online help. You just search for the Android, and you will get the information about setting up the Android environment on our online help. So that's not a problem at all.
Sanuja, he says you showed a notes file and formatted the contents to show us the SDK info. Does that make sense to you?
No, I didn't understand which notes file did I show. I mean,
well, go ahead with the next question.
Okay. But then again, I said that whatever the files and everything, we can definitely provide, and it's already there as a part of the presentation, or if at all you need anything else, I can provide you a screenshot as well. Android application, the next question I'm going to read. Android application key generation properties, password and key alias are unique values related to me as a developer of the app. The end user never needs to know this information. You are absolutely right. End user absolutely doesn't need to know about any of these properties, but they will just see your application, whatever has been generated. So as a developer of the Iron Speed Designer, keep these properties with you and do not share it with anyone. The third question, when I upgrade my ISD generated app and then deploy it to the App Store server, does the application store server then notify all the users of the app? There could be hundreds or thousands of the users that need to know of the upgrade. So as you know, like once you have so how people get notified about the version about a particular application? Let's say I have downloaded, the Facebook application on my device. If I have downloaded my application, and if the next version comes up, then I get a notification that, oh, these are the updates available for the Facebook application, and then you can upgrade it. Similarly, if people have already downloaded the version of your application, then they will get automatically notified that the next version of your application is available in the stores, and they will be given a choice by the device itself whether they want to upgrade it or not. It's their choice, but then yes, they will get notified. The notification in the process is not a part of the application generation, but it's part of the Apple App Store or the Android App Store. They take care of notifying people about next available versions. Of course, anyone who hasn't downloaded your application will never get notified about the next available version. However, if they search for your application in the App Stores, they will automatically see the next available version or the latest available version in there. I might have missed this, but will it work with the Windows Phone? As of now, unfortunately, no. So we just support the Android and the iOS applications, and if the people demand a lot for the Windows application, then we might consider supporting the Windows application, the application for the Windows Phone as well. I think these are the questions, and we are done with the question answers as well. So thank you everyone for joining us today.